Hello, everybody. You're listening to WXOU at Oakland University. Today, I'm joined with Marc and Jordan of Neil Francis. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Great, thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for being on the show. Let's get right into this. First off, who is Neil Francis for the people that may not know you guys?
Neil Francis is actually, Neil is my dad's name, and my dad, and Francis is my mom's name, and my mom. That is Neil Francis.
Okay, I was gonna ask you about the name later. That clears it up. I was always confused about that.
Yeah, just to be totally clear, I am not Neil Francis.
Yeah.
Mr. Lead singer. Everyone thinks I'm Neil. It's funny.
Is that why you guys named the album? There is no Neil Francis.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you guys were both working on your own things prior to 2016. How did you guys get together?
Through mutual friends. Yeah, we just kind of we both actually moved to LA at the same time. I'm kind of from outside of LA, and I was living in New York, and came back like within the same week as Jordan coming out here. And a mutual friend of ours was like, hey, like, you know, I don't know. We had like worked together previously on another project. Jordan like produced a track for my old band, and kind of clicked. We like clicked in that studio kind of session, and so it was just a convenient kind of moment for us to try something together. We both moved to LA at the same time.
Okay, it's just like magic from there. Keep making songs.
Yeah.
Total magic from day one. Book. No, but we did like, yeah, as Marc said, we knew each other before starting the band, but had never like really tried to hone in on something. And I was in a bit of a place as a producer where I wanted to work with other people and kind of like expand from just simply like making stuff on my own. And I mean, I remember back in the early days when we first started writing stuff, like I had little demos and instrumentals and stuff, and Marc was cutting vocals in his dad's office down in Rancho Cucamonga in LA. Like, so it's pretty funny, by any means necessary back in the early days.
Very cool. Very cool. So within the group, who does what? So I know lead singer, producing, but do you guys like do a little interchanging sometimes, or is it set?
No, there's some interchange.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I would say primarily we kind of act in those roles in a way. Jordan a lot of times has some instrumentals and pretty solid ideas that he's bringing to the table, and I'm kind of like more just singing over them than.
Okay.
But every track's different. There's plenty of tracks that we've literally built together. There's plenty of tracks where I've kind of like brought something closer to a finalized, a solid idea than a demo. I don't know. It's like it changes every time.
Yeah, there is.
But yeah, the basic kind of to really dumb it down, producer, singer.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And then like there's a whole bunch of other stuff after that. Like we in terms of the live band, we have a drummer and a bassist, and Marc sings and plays guitar, I play keys, samples, and sequences and stuff. And then we also do a different variation of a live set where we kind of do this hybrid DJ live remix re-edit thing where we're both kind of like DJing, and then I'm also like playing some keys and stuff, and Marc's using the CDJ as like a sampler, which has been fun too. So I don't know, I guess what's cool at the moment is there's a bunch of different, we're not just doing the same thing, there's a bunch of different ways of doing it that keeps them interesting.
So you guys are on tour, or did you just end your tour?
Just ended. Yeah.
Just ended today. Okay. How did that go?
It was great. Man,
it was great.
Yeah, it was a challenge. I mean, we were hitting snowstorms.
Yeah.
Like shows got canceled. Somehow, like we toured in February, which probably wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, there were plenty of text messages sent to the team being like, we don't want to tour in February ever again. We drove into like four snowstorms, dude. It was like the amount of the amount of promoters that were like, "Oh, it's such a bummer you guys weren't here yesterday. It was so beautiful and sunny. Meanwhile, we're driving in at 0 with a snowstorm and winds at 150 miles an hour to get
Oh
there."
yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
how many shows you guys had like the Midwest area, but like
Oh
it's like
man,
that.
it's
It was-
dangerous, dude.
Yeah, it was
Dangerous.
70 last week and it's freezing rain today here.
Wow. Wow.
Insane.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we somehow were the unlucky ones every time. It's like storm followed us everywhere. Which I mean, I partly blame the raven, the crow. Wasn't really a raven. We had this weird moment when we were on tour. We were outside a McDonald's parking lot. Were we getting McDonald's? We might have been getting McDonald's. I don't know. Like stealing the Wi-Fi for a second. I can't remember. But anyway, we were in the parking lot and this crow was just very aware of us and like kind of like staring at the van, like he was waiting for something, just like a death stare. And I was like, dude, this is kind of scary. Like we should probably feed the crow because this crow is very intently looking at us, and who knows, what could happen. So we tried to we tossed him some beef jerky. Was he into the jerky? I can't remember.
I can't remember what we actually
Did he
can't
take
remember
the
what-
offering? Like
The first offer he did not take. He was not interested. And then the second offering, he was kind of about it. But then his crow buddy came in and they had like this brawl over the food.
oh no.
So I think like that energy, like we kind of got hexed by that crow. So the everywhere we went, the weather was, telling us that we should have fed him a little quicker or given him really
Yeah.
what he which might have been our souls or something.
So next tour, bring some better beef jerky, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Either that or just like, let's push it a month. Let's do
Yeah.
February.
So I had a few questions to ask about the newest album, There Is No Neil Francis, which released earlier this year. So you guys have been releasing singles since 2017. What led you to the creation of this album compared to like the EPs and singles from before?
Yeah, I think in the back of our minds, we always loved the idea of doing an album. And it's funny because in like today's day and age, it's like not really I'd say a requirement. There are plenty of, artists that just kind of release single after single and never put out an album. And you don't really, I don't know, the whole format of like how we listen to music has changed. And so like putting out an album is like not necessarily recommended by labels and managers. And because like, I don't know, there's all kinds of like algorithmic reasons why
Yeah.
it's better to release a single. But we had this like collection of tunes and it just felt like we wanted to piece them together. There were also some tunes that like we like weren't really quite singles, didn't really know how we would release them. And so that was like an opportunity to combine things together.
It was also, it was about the last thing left that we hadn't done yet. We'd done EPs and singles and covers and the whole thing. And it kind of got to a point where artistically, let's give this a go. And then, yeah, as Marc said, there were a bunch of songs that weren't necessarily like going to be big streaming songs or whatever, but we still wanted to say that statement, whatever that was for that song. So being able to do an album allows you to kind of like express that. I always say like, I like when you sit with an album for a second and you move past the obvious ones and there's the deep cuts, the album cuts that kind of really grow on you. And I don't know, it was good to be able to kind of focus on that sort of style of creation rather than solely banger after banger after banger after banger.
Yeah, I think Electric Blue Angels comes to mind when it's
Yes,
like
totally.
I love that song, but it's not exactly a single, but it can only kind of exist on that kind of album format.
Totally.
So it's very different.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, was the process of making an album any different from making your EPs or singles?
Yeah.
So different. I think especially because it was different because we were trying to make it seamlessly kind of flow. And so there was a lot of like time spent trying to figure out how to do a transition between tracks. And you know, I don't know if it's like so obvious, but you know, we named all the track titles to spell out a poem of sorts, and so that took,
That's funny. That was literally my next question.
yeah,
Yeah, keep
yeah, so
going.
that took some kind of more holistic thinking about what we were writing, and you know, a couple tracks, some of them obviously are just like were written for the sole purpose of the poem, like you know, track 3 or whatever it is, I just want you to, which is like literally just the words I just want you to, which was kind of our way of making a poem out of the track titles.
Yes.
And then, you know, some of the other songs we kind of steered the writing process towards kind of talking more about what the message of the album is. So it was totally different. It's like when you're writing a single, you're like in this little silo of like the song, and with the whole album you're like constantly considering how it fits in the flow, and you know, what purpose it serves, I guess, in a way.
So with the poem you're talking about is could you like elaborate on like the meaning behind that?
Yeah, I know kind of what it means to me personally. I feel like, you know, I kind of would in a way rather not like describe it exactly, because I think I'm like a believer in you know, and an art creative work like just being left up to interpretation. So like I want everyone to just take away from it what they think.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely just like a feeling of like liberation in a sense. Like it's kind of, you know, in a way like about transcending something. So
Okay. Was there any significance to like the name There Is No Neil Francis, or was it just like stop calling me Neil Francis, it's not me?
Oh, it's just, I don't know. It's a bit tongue in cheek. I think we approach things sometimes from that perspective to have a bit of a laugh. Obviously, there's another Neil Francis out there, which it wasn't a direct dig or anything like that. But when I just had kind of a brainwave one day where it's like that would be a funny thing to call the album. Like there is no Neil Francis. It's literal, while at the same time, you know, opens it up for interpretation again. You know?
If you want me to sit here and intellectualize it, I can absolutely do that for the next 5 minutes. But I feel like, you know, it's like one of those things, like any kind of title you put on something has many meanings, I would say. It's like it's probably not super clear to us even what it means.
Okay. So what were some of like the major ideas and influences you were going for when making this album?
A lot of it, when we first started kind of loosely talking about it, was right at the start of the pandemic. So I was sort of doing a thing where I was like making beats, just like quarantine beats, because I live about 5 minutes away from our studio here. And I was just making a lot of different beats and ideas. We'd been DJing a lot previous to the pandemic, so I had a lot of like samples and was really into Patrice Rushen and Bobby Caldwell and some of those types of artists. So those samples of them made their way onto the album. What else? I think oddly thinking back, like it was kind of influenced by some of the music we were DJing. There are a couple of tracks. It was like, I like this. I want to do something like this that has this energy. So I think that was a big piece of it. I think who else? Who else big influences and ideas? I don't know. Honestly, man, like I've DJed for like 10 years, 12 years of my life. So I try not to like directly reference a song. I like to think about what it is in my head without directly referencing the song, because then it's not going to turn out exactly like what I'm thinking. And I think whether I like it or not, a lot of the music that I've listened to over this amount of time and DJed and seen it work in different environments or whatever just comes out, and I just don't overthink it. Kind of like leave it at that, you know?
Yeah, it just happens.
Yeah.
So what does the release of this album mean for like the future of Neil Francis? Are there going to be more albums coming out, or are you guys going to go back to like the single format, or not sure?
Not sure.
Not sure.
The album was really fun to me. It was like a fun challenge, and I would want to do that again at some point. But I don't know. Not necessarily the next release. I don't know.
Okay. So I wanted to cut a little bit away from the album and let the audience get to know you guys more personally. So I have a few questions prepared. First, have you guys always known you wanted to be musicians? Well, what did you guys like do before Neil Francis to get to where you're at?
Oh man. No, I mean, I feel like at one point I wanted to be an NBA basketball player and stunt car driver and, what else? But yeah, I don't know. It's not been like this huge life goal. It's just been this thing that's always been present in my life, music, I guess. So yeah, I don't know.
I was a DJ before I still would call myself more of a producer and DJ than like a musician. When you see an actual musician playing instruments, it's something else entirely. But like a formative moment, whether I like it or not, was there's a music festival in Sydney called Harbour Life, and it's right on the harbour. It's great. And I was 20, 21, took ecstasy for the first time and saw this guy DJing who was, I can't remember who it was, but I was like, I got to do this. Like,
Yeah.
I 100% have to do this. I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do it. I bought 2 record players and a bunch of shitty like house music stuff, and like taught myself how to do that. And then I also used to like drive around smoking pot around Sydney, just in my own car, listening to like rap music. And I used to love like beats. I loved rappers, but I knew I couldn't be a rapper. So I was like, what can I do in this space?
Yeah.
And I was just a complete nerd when it came to like who produced the beat or who produced this. And then I would, in my head, be like, if I was putting together an album, I'd have like Dr. Dre and I'd have DJ Premier or whatever. And I kind of like fell in love with those 2 worlds. So it's sort of like what I've ended up doing weirdly is sort of a hybrid of both of those things.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite producers? Or
I mean, where do you want to start, dude? To be obvious, like obviously Jay Dilla, I love how he samples and stuff. All the early Dr. Dre and like West Coast G-Funk. Listening to that music, what's been great is that a lot of that music is based on 70s samples, and what that did for me was it opened up a whole world of music that I didn't know existed before listening to Dr. Dre. And then you get into like Leon Edwards and like all the different people that he sampled along the way, and you kind of like fall into a rabbit hole there. Daft Punk is also a throwing that initial thing as well. The first time I heard them, I was like, wow, they're doing like a hip hop and kind of dance music thing. I'm trying to think of something heady right now to seem not so obvious. I can't really think of anything. Like honestly, I would say those 3. I've been huge influences on what I do personally.
okay.
And Nile Rodgers, right?
Nile Rodgers, totally. Actually, I would go one step further. I'd get heady with this one. Bernard Edwards, the bass. So Nile Rodgers was Chic, and he played the guitar and did all like disco licks. But in my opinion, the thing that makes Chic like one step above the like high energy disco world is Bernard Edwards was the bass player, and he was the king of bass players. So
was it like Nile and Bernard, what's his name?
Yeah, Bernard Edwards. And Nile did most of the production, but he was.
But they were like the team.
They were a duo.
Yeah, I remember from the. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And just like the way he would make the bass talk, it was just the best.
Yeah.
So you're from Sydney, right, Jordan?
Yep.
All right, and you're South California?
Yeah.
Okay, so something I would like to ask, is there anywhere from your hometown that you would like to shout out that like had an impact on you personally moving forward?
Yeah, Coffee Klatch. The Coffee Klatch, man, that was like the place where all of the high school bands used to play on, whatever Tuesday nights or whenever they would let us. And it was like a kind of formative play. I used to play there with our bass player Greg, because we were in a band in high school together, and we would like go, set up our whole PA and set up like all of our stuff and like just have like a show out on their patio.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Greg's brothers would like bring their giant lifted trucks with like a bunch of our merch, and we'd sell barely any t-shirts and give away numbers. And oh yeah, we got a cut of the coffee bar. So like we'd be constantly reminding people in the audience, like, go buy some coffee. It was like so sick to be in like a high school band, to be like kind of getting paid / free coffee, and like
Yeah.
That's funny.
that was great. So Coffee Clash.
What was the name of the band? I'm just wondering.
Fable.
Sable?
Fable, like
Fable.
F-A-B-L-E.
Oh, Fable. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering.
We had this amazing merch. It said Fable, and there's like a unicorn.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I wish I still had a t-shirt. It was good stuff.
It's just as fictional as the Neil Francis. They're both fictional.
Nice full circle, dude.
Trend here, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What about you?
I guess there's a nightclub in Sydney called Club 77, and there was a crew of DJs that would do the Friday night there. It was a weekly party, and they just turned me on to like good club music. Before, when I first started DJing, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just buying anything that had a sample in it that I knew with a big kick behind it. And then I went to their club night, and they were mixing like everything from disco to 80s to techno. They were putting it all together in a really cool way. They taught me more by watching. They taught me how to DJ and how to select and read a room. And there was just one DJ in particular, DJ Ajax. It was just like, he was the sickest. Yeah, I just remember that guy. He was the dopest DJ I've ever seen in my life. Still no one really close, but yeah, Club 77.
Club 77. I'll keep it in mind if I ever go to Sydney.
I don't know if it's called Club 77 anymore. Yeah, let me get back to you on whether it's still called Club 77.
Okay. All right. My next question is, what is something that you've wanted to get asked about but have never had the chance to talk about in an interview?
Man, I got nothing. You have anything?
I mean, how good my first serve is in the game of tennis.
Big tennis guy?
I mean, I'm a tennis guy. I don't know if I'm a big tennis guy. I love playing tennis. I'm not that good. Everyone's been beating me recently, which has kind of been pissing me off.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one's really asked me about my tennis game. Maybe if people spoke to me more about my tennis game and less about music, I'd work on it more. I don't know.
Yeah, I play tennis. I call myself a tennis enjoyer, not a tennis player.
Enjoyist. Yeah, I'm the same.
So,
sorry, did you say your first serve? Mm-hmm. Not your second or your third? Is that
my first serve is pretty good. It's extremely erratic, but it's good.
It only hits like 50% of the time, but when
dude, I played yesterday and it fell apart. And like, I don't actually come to think of it, I don't want to talk about my tennis game.
So another kind of broad question. What are some of the best, worst, weirdest moments that happened on your tour this year?
Well, I guess, we played a show in Detroit, and there was like a snowstorm happening. And so I can't remember if they issued like a stay-at-home order, but it was like very it was not advised to be on the roads driving. And we drove in, and it took forever because we were driving really slow in the snow, and played the show. And I think like probably about like 30 people showed up, and it was just like actually an amazing show and really, really fun. And afterwards we took a picture with everyone in the crowd, like kind of like a soccer team style, like,
oh yeah,
wall pit. So that was kind of wild. I think the wildest thing about this tour is that like it was such a mixed bag. Like there were just so many different types of shows and size rooms, and like, so that was like a great example of like what was seemingly like a small, like crappy moment was actually fun and interesting. Yeah. And one guy told us that while on his way there, he like had spun out on the freeway. Like
Oh my gosh.
Like done like a 180 on the freeway.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of the weather conditions we drove through was just like, I mean, I've never really experienced middle American weather like that. I grew up in Sydney, Mark's
Yeah.
West Coast. We're both probably
Yeah,
not
we
the
had
most
no idea what
experienced.
we were doing. in the
Yeah,
snow.
which like ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
totally. Because if you knew, I question, some of our decision making, but like because we're so ignorant, we're just like press on no matter what.
Yeah. We like got word that there was going to be crazy weather in Texas, and they're having some like cold snap event where like they were shutting down, all the roads and stuff. And we're like, you know what, let's just try. So we tried, and it was like 16 hours of driving at like
Oh my gosh.
30 miles an hour to get to where we needed to go. It was
brutal.
insane.
Oh, that's
I got
awful.
I got a couple of things. So like I'm personally so thankful for all of the people that came out to the shows. It was such a weird time, and we were so lucky that we were like about a week and a half behind the worst of the COVID spike for Omicron.
Yeah.
So we when we sold tickets, people turned up, whereas a lot of venues were like, if a week ago or 2 weeks ago, even though they'd sold 500 600 tickets or it's sold out, still half the venue was turning up because of COVID. So really thankful for that. So like one kind of crazy thing for me was I was driving one night. We had to like make some ground from one show to another city, and sometimes when you're driving in the middle of nowhere, I can't remember where we were, but there'll be a sign that says next services is like 70 miles away, and I had 80 miles worth of gas in the van. So I was like, all good, gonna make that, no problem. But unbeknownst to me, it was so freezing cold. We were banging out the AC heater, and over the course of like 45 minutes, an hour, everyone's asleep except for my buddy who was up front, and I saw the rain just going in the wrong way, and we're in the middle of nowhere, dude, like nowhere, freezing cold. I'm like, fuck, I don't know what I'm gonna
Oh, that's awful.
like, I have no idea what I'm going to do here. And then I like broke up my buddy next to me, drummer, and I'm like, hey, dude, listen, don't wake anyone up, but like, we need to find a gas station stat. Like, I'm in big trouble here. and we like Googled one. We had to go a little bit off the beaten track or whatever, like middle of nowhere, icy roads. Again, we eventually pull into what looked like a Coen Brothers style film set where there was like a car with a gas pump in it, but no one there. It was super strange. And we pull into this gas station and everyone's kind of like, everyone's like kind of tossing and turning in the car or whatever and kind of like waking up. And I pull into the gas station. I'm like, thank God, with literally like 10 miles left on this tank. I pull in, I was like, thank goodness. Go to fill up and it's not reading my credit card. Oh, bro, come on, don't do this to me. So I go into the front, I'll go up to the front door of the gas station and I'm like knocking on the door, not really looking inside. I knock twice and then I look around and all I see on the bench is a shotgun. And I'm like, okay, I think that says it all right now. We had, thankfully, the gas station I was actually trying to get to was about 10 miles away. We found this one in between, like maybe this will work.
Okay.
So we got to the gas station with like 1 mile left. Thankfully, that was a relief.
I was asleep for this.
I was so stressed, dude. I was so stressed.
Didn't even wake him up or nothing. So more about you guys' tour. Do you have like a pre-show ritual or anything you do to get yourself hyped up?
Yeah, before every set, we bring all of our crew, like Kyle and Sebastian doing sound and lights, and we have like a little team huddle, and we do like a you ready kind of a thing. Someone's slapping another person's ass. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's like we basically do like a sports,
like a football team.
Totally.
Yeah.
We have this phrase that means nothing, but for some reason means a lot to us. It was like we came up with some bullshit on our first tour. Yeah. And we just like, stay and do a little pump up. It's nothing, but it's something.
Yeah.
Okay. A little random question for you guys. If you each could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh man. I mean, I know that there are like
Yeah, why am I only thinking of invisibility? That's all I can think of. But it's got to be cool ones.
I mean, no, yeah, that's a weird.
I know.
one.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm sure there's like a smarter answer to this, but like honestly, to be able to fly would be so cool. And so I've always wanted to fly.
Yeah, it'd save you from driving through Texas next time.
For sure. Yeah.
Uh, next one. If you could collaborate with anybody, living, dead, past, present, fictional, I don't care, on your next track, who would it be?
Oh, man. I don't know why this just popped in my head, because I guess because you said fictional, but like Dracula.
Dracula. Dracula and some sick beats.
Yeah, it's some like really dark, like New York underground techno, or like left field house with Dracula. No, not Sesame Street Dracula.
That's what's
Like Nosferatu Dracula. Yeah.
Like the Count.
Yeah.
That's what
That's funny.
Ooh.
So I want to circle back so we wrap this up. I think we're a little bit over time actually. For somebody who hasn't heard your music before, how would you describe it?
Or the weekend.
For the weekend. I like that. For your fans, is there anybody or anything new, anything that people could be looking forward to that you can talk about?
We got a remix package coming soon. We've got a bunch of artists that we're into doing remixes of the songs. Other than that, on the music side, that's about the long and the short of it. We've got shows coming up. We're playing festivals here and there.
Okay.
All those dates will be on our website.
Very cool. Very cool. My final question for you guys is there anything that you would like to say to everybody out there to lead this on?
To lead this on?
To leave the interview. To leave.
There you go.
I got nothing. Goodbye.
Stay strong.
Straight to the
Stay strong.
point.
Play along.
Yeah,
There you go.
Stay strong.
Stay strong, play along. Just straight to the point.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me for a little bit. Stream There Is No Neil Francis and Neil Francis Other Music. This was WXOU, Oakland University, and we are out.
You.
Hey, what's up? This is Neil Francis, and you're here with. No, fuck it.